Hi everybody, I'd like to talk about today one of my favourite types of photography actually, which is macro photography, but tabletop flower photography. As you can see, it's somebody's birthday, or it was somebody's birthday recently, so we've got plenty of flowers around the house. And, you know, it's February here in the UK, it's cold, it's wet, it's dark, there's not much colour around, and so one of the really pleasant things to do is to do some macro photography inside, in the warm, listening to a podcast or the sort of thing, and you can come up with some really nice images as well. And you don't need much kit either, and that's what I'd like to go through tonight. And obviously the big advantage of having the flowers inside and working on them like this is that we can move our subjects around, we can change the angle that we shoot at, we can go up above, we can go down below, we can introduce lights. The world is our oyster, and it's a really good, fun thing to do, and you'd be amazed by what you can do. One of the tricks actually is to get really close as well. You almost can get abstract with your type of the photography you do. But again, it's not about the kit, because you can do stuff with the kit you've probably got right at the moment. You do macro photography with a phone, with a compact camera. Lots of compact cameras and bridge cameras have fantastic macro mode where you can get the camera right up to it. But obviously I'm going to be showing you DSLR stuff today. So we're going to be going through shooting with, obviously on a tripod, with your camera. We're going to do some free lensing to start off with. We're going to be introducing some macro tubes. I'm going to be showing you how to do it with just your telephoto lens as well, which is probably quite a good macro lens. And we're going to look at some M42 stuff as well with some extension tubes on. So there's lots of options, but the first thing we're going to look at is really doing it with what you've got, your kit lens and your DSLR. I've got my old 350D here because I'm recording this on my 600D T3i. And you may well say, well, the problem is you can't get close enough, can you? Because the minimum focusing distance with your kit lens is probably, it's not very close at all. I reckon I can get, right, that's it, I've lost focus now. So I'm probably, what am I? Well, it's not too bad actually. Let's take a photo there. Yeah, I'm pretty close. I could zoom in a little bit, but you may also say, wait, but Rob, your shutter speed's going to be way too long. That's true. If you're hand-holding stuff, you're inside, you're going to have to pop up your lens. Pop up your flash, sorry. And then let's go in. There we go. That doesn't look too bad. And I could zoom in, obviously, and crop that. However, here's the trick. If you want to get creative with your photography, indoor macro photography, what you can do is go to aperture priority mode. You're going to need to leave your flash up because you're going to need the flash to freeze the action. Take your lens off, flick it round the other way. Sometimes it's best to kind of put the lens in the zoom position where it's quite small. And then we reverse it like this. And then we go in, and you can just about see stuff through your viewfinder. And you can get incredibly close. And you get these really ethereal photos, almost abstract photos. Again, I tell you what, I'm just going to do a few more. So you kind of put the lens onto there like that. Getting close. In fact, if you change the zoom length, you get different effects. It's best to change to manual focus as well while you do this. Here we go. Let's get in nice and close on this rose. Again, you've got to get really close with a wide angle zoom. Depth of field is tiny. Interesting. So that's a good way of getting very abstract photos, very, as I say, unusual looking macro photos. Try it with your kit zoom. You can try it with your telephoto zoom as well. But what I'm going to show you next is how your telephoto zoom is actually probably quite a good macro lens in itself. But that's how you can do macro photography with just your kit lens, and you don't need a tripod, you don't need anything, you just need a lot of patience and a lot of photographs. Okay, so what I've done now is I've put my 55 to 250 telephoto lens on. You might think, well, wait a minute, why are you putting a telephoto lens on? A lens that's designed to get things that are far away nice and close. Why are you putting that on? Well, funnily enough, you'll find that your telephoto lens is probably quite a good macro lens as well. And the trick to doing it is you actually extend to your longest zoom. That's the most important thing. And we can use autofocus on this, and we can obviously have the image stabilization on. With macro photography, there's a good chance you're going to be cropping in as well. So try and use a low ISO, like ISO 100, center point focusing for your most accurate focusing. And if you're going to go handheld, again, pop up the flash. So again, we're just using the basic kit, probably that you've got already. And what you'll find is the minimum focusing distance might be quite far away. In fact, I'm just going to switch over to manual focuses because it's just struggling a little bit in this light to see how close we can focus. Let's have a look. So we're probably looking at something like right there. Now, it may well look like I'm quite a long way away from the vase, and I guess I am, but I'm actually zoomed in a long way, and that would make a nice little macro, that one. So let's just fire one off. Let's do the rose over here as well. They look okay. So although it's not that practical because you're a long way away from your subject with flowers, it's still, you know, a way of doing it. And what happens is if you actually reduce your zoom length, you can actually focus a little bit closer. However, your field of view will be much wider as well. But again, it's a good place to start. And also it's really handy, say when you're outside taking pictures of insects and animals where you don't want to actually get that close to stinging insects. You know, the fact that you've got to be this far away in order to get a macro shot can often be a good thing. So really there's a couple of ways where you can do macro photography, probably with the kit you've got. You can use your telephoto, your wide angle zoom, just flick it round the other way. And you can do some free lensing, kind of like that. And there are special adapters you can buy on eBay and places that you can hold it into place, but physically. But I find just holding it can be quite fun. Or you can use your existing telephoto zoom. So what we're going to do next is we're kind of going to go to sort of the macro setups that I prefer, that I think give you a lot more control and give you better quality images. So your base settings really are going to be, you're going to be shooting aperture priority mode. You're going to be down at like ISO 100 because we're going to be on a tripod. We're not going to use any flash to start off with. We're just going to rely on longer exposures. You may want to take a custom white balance if you want, or you can stick with auto white balance. Shoot in RAW, so it's easy to adjust the exposures and the white balance in post-processing as well. And what else is there? Mirror lockup can be very handy as well. To set that on your camera, again, check your manual to see how you do that. And what that does is basically you go to take the picture, it flips the mirror so that when you take the picture and the camera doesn't shake with the mirror flying up all the way. And kind of to go with that as well, you may want to, instead of shooting straight away, put the shutter delay on to like 2 seconds or 10 seconds if you've got enough time, or use a little remote. I'm just going to put the shutter delay on my camera. So we're going to do that, and we're going to use a different lens setup to get real close in, and we're going to start using the tripod as well. Okay, so what I've done now is I've added some extension tubes to my telephoto 55 to 250, and obviously I'll put the camera on a tripod. And these are manual extension tubes. You can find them on eBay or at camera shops, and all they're doing is they're taking the lens and just moving it away from the camera body, which means that the lens can focus a lot closer. However, you do lose with the manual type extension tubes, these Canon, well, they're not Canon, they're compatible with Canon. Yeah, I've lost all the electronics, so I've got no autofocus, I've got, I can't change the aperture, I'm stuck wide open. There are tricks to making it go tighter, but I won't get into it because we don't really need to bother. But it's a great way, again, of doing it very cheaply. And these are very cheap, especially on eBay, manual extension tubes. Or you can buy the electronic ones, which will still let the lens communicate with the body, so you'll still get automatic aperture. Often you'll lose autofocus because there's not really enough light for the autofocus system to work properly, so you tend to go manual focus. To kind of show you, this is like an M42 lens, so that's the lens there, and they're the extension tubes there. So you can see it's just pulling it away, and that enables me to get really close. And again, so what I can do now is I can look at my subject, I can look for the better flowers, I can lean them over if I wanted to. Obviously I can move my tripod. I'm being very static here for the sake of the video because I don't have much room, but let's say, I don't know, there's some nice stamen around here, so let's move that round to there. And I often like having the subject off the axis kind of the focal plane, so things drop in and out of focus. So let's do something like that. Now funnily enough, when you use an extension tube, you actually focus by changing the zoom, not the focus ring. The other thing, obviously with this I'm using my old 350D, which is a bit of a pain because I've got to use a viewfinder. If I was using my new 600D T3, or you've got a newer DSLR that's got live view, use live view, you know, with the big screen on the back where you can zoom in and you can check your focus, because it's a bit hit and miss when you're trying to do things through the viewfinder like this. Let's have a look. That looks a little bit, in fact, let's just change the composition slightly. So you get the delay of the shutter delay, mirror flicks up, takes the photo. Again, just play that and zoom in. It's very difficult on the back of a camera screen to see if anything's okay, so I'm just going to adjust it and take another one. And again, because the camera's on a tripod, long exposure, no problem at all. Now, the amount of magnification you get for your macro photos completely depends on the number of extension tubes you put in. So the more extension tubes, so the longer it gets, the more magnified you get. There's no loss of optical quality really, because there's no glass in the way. However, your depth of field is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, so it becomes really tricky to actually hold to get what you want is in focus. Now you can do focus stacking and things like that, but yeah, that's a little bit too much effort for me. That's good. So just think about the composition, your rule of thirds and stuff like that, and just take lots and lots of photos. Let's have a look. Yeah, that looks nice. So there we go. So we've got our telephoto zoom, the 55 to 250 with manual extension tubes, and we'll be getting some nice photos out of that. So what we're going to look at next is we're going to look at probably one of my favourite ways of doing this sort of photography in terms of lenses is using an M42 lens with an adapter. Okay, so this is probably my favourite lens for indoor tripod based static macro photography. This is a Solidor zoom lens, 90 to 230. Fixed aperture, f4.5, and there's no moving bits on the outside. So as you zoom in and out, there's nothing moves. So everything is on the inside. Now, I'm not saying you go out and buy one of these lenses, but if you see one going cheap, or you know somebody who's got some M42 kit or some old lenses, you know, use one of these because for this sort of photography, because they're really good. Now, what you can see at the business end, we've got our extension tubes, M42 extension tubes. And the magic bit is a little adapter on the back. This is an M42 to an EF mount adapter. M42 was the standard mount used for people like Pentax and lots of Russian cameras in the 60s and 70s. So there's loads of these lenses around. So this means I can use this lens on my Canon camera. All I've got to do is make sure the Canon camera is in aperture priority mode, and the camera will just look for the light that comes in and then adjust the shutter speed accordingly. Remember, I'm running at low ISO 100, mirror lockup, shutter delay, all that sort of stuff. Now this is quite a hefty lens, so actually the mount for the tripod is on the lens itself. So what we do is we take our adapter, put it on, snaps into place like so, and then we mount the whole thing like this onto the tripod, and I can get massive magnification with this. massive magnification. But also, what's really impressive about it is the fact that because it's an M42 lens, I've got manual control of the aperture. So I can open up the aperture so it's nice and bright through the viewfinder so I can see what I'm doing, and then I can tighten it up an awful lot in order to expand that depth of field. So let's have a look. Let's see what we've got here. Again, normally I'd be moving around a lot more, but because of the space constraints for doing the video. And again, you focus with the zoom. Let's get in to this rose here. And that looks nice there. Very nice. And then let's have a look at the aperture. So the aperture, that's wide open, so I can tighten down. Once I'm in focus, I can then tighten down the aperture to expand the depth of field, so it's not really, really small, it's a little bit bigger. There we go, that looks nice. And then let's do one of these white flowers over here. That one there. So open up the aperture so I can see what I'm doing. Focus using the zoom. In the centre of the flower. Nice. Stop it down. Shutter delay, mirror lock up. Bang. Photograph taken. Really easy. Quite relaxing. Good to do this with a cup of tea. As I say, listen to your favourite photography podcast. Again, you can work the subject, work around, get underneath, get up above, and you'll be amazed at the different types of shots that you'll come up with. Now, using long exposures is great, and you can get nice looking results. But if you really want to make your macro photography pop, using a little bit more light can work very, very well indeed. But you may be saying, well, Rob, yeah, I'd love to do that, but I haven't got an expensive strobe, I haven't got an expensive flash. Never fear. You can do light painting, which can be very, very effective, and all you really need for that is your smartphone with a torch app on it, like so. Does that come up? Do I keep turning it off? There we go. So I've got my torch app. Then all you need to do is just make sure that you're using a tighter aperture on your camera. See, see the mistake I made there? I tried to change the aperture on my camera using the mode dial. Obviously I'm using an M42 lens, so that ain't going to work. So let's focus down on this little flower here, using the zoom. Let's close down the aperture. I don't know, let's go down to like f16. Let's see what the shutter would be. So it's a fourth of a second, a fifth of a second. Okay. So all we're going to do now is I'm just going to shine my light onto that, just to make it pop. Nice. And then because the shutter speed's so long, I can even move. I could knock my camera like that. I can move my my light round. Now, it's quite bright in here, even though it might not look like on the video, because I've got a big halogen light shining on me, so you can actually see what's going on. If when you're doing this you kill most of the lights in the room, you'll find you'll get shutter speeds of 5, 10, 20 seconds. Then you can get really creative by moving your light all the way around. In fact, I think that photo there that you see on the TV, the way I did that was I was shining a light right down, using a torch right down onto the flower, just to make that way, make it light up that way. And then you could move it around as well to almost get a HDR effect. So that's light painting, a really easy way of making your photos pop. Or of course, if you've got one, you could strap a strobe on. This is a YN565EX. It's nice having a bigger strobe than the pop-up flash, because what that means is that you can... there's more of a difference in the position between there and there, or of course I could bounce the light off the ceiling as well to get a really natural look. Let's see what we can see here. That rose speaks to me. Let's move in. Let's get it focused. edge of the rose. I need to go up a little bit higher. Come down on it a little bit more. Where is she? There she is. Just move the angle around a little bit. Right, let's focus it in. Put a bit more angle. Lovely, so that's giving me more light. In fact, let's do it as a direct one. That's better. That's starting to make that pop off the LCD screen as well. So you can have the camera on. You could go if you've got something like a 600D, 650D, or the higher end Canons. You can obviously use the wireless flash system. Another really easy way of doing it is you could get a flash extension tube like this one. This is another Yongnuo one, and the way that this works is that you slide your flash onto this extension lead. This extension lead goes into here, and the advantage of doing it this way is that you're not relying on wireless or anything like that, but it also, because it's an ETTL cord, you're getting all the automatic flash data as well. So I can move my light around to an interesting, maybe a more interesting angle, take the photo, and you get all sorts of funky shadows and things appearing that way. So there we go. So that's using light and using strobes or flash to make your macro photography a little bit more interesting as well. Okay, so hopefully I've given you some great ideas how you could play around with some flowers in a nice little pot and your camera, and you don't really need any accessories. You don't need anything extra at all. You can just use your dSLR body or your compact system, your mirrorless body, flip the lens off, turn it around the other way, pop the flash up because that will help. And you should get really, really close and shoot away. Or you can use your telephoto zoom. Don't know where mine's gone. There we go. You could use your telephoto zoom it out all the way, back off a bit, and you can get nice macro photographs that way. You could add some extension tubes, manual or automatic, or you could even get an old M42 lens like this and add some extension tubes, and you can get some really effective macro photographs. It's all about time, really. Take lots and lots of photographs, muck around with light, maybe with a flash or a torch, do a bit of light painting that way. One thing I haven't really talked about is changing the background as well. Get some black card, put it behind so you can isolate subjects. Here I've got all the flowers bunched together, but take a flower out, lay it out, take some photos that way, play around with the depth of field, play around with the composition, and above all, just take lots and lots of photographs from lots of different angles, and it can be a really rewarding part of photography. And I often like getting, the closer you can get, the better in terms of magnification. Nobody wants to see a whole flower. We see photographs like that all the time. You want to get in really close so you see the stamens, so you're kind of using the structure of the flower as a compositional aid as well. Well, that's enough from me waffling on. I'll let you guys go off and take some macro photos. Go out, get your loved ones some flowers, some nice ones that you would like to take photographs of. They'll be all like, oh wow, amazing. And then when they've gone out, or a few days later before the flowers start to wilt, get your camera out and start taking some photographs. That's enough from me. My name is Rob from RobertPhoto.com. Put any questions in the comments down below. Hit the thumbs up, please share, and I'd really like it if you subscribe. And I'll see you again soon.